The Jared Dillian Show.
I'm Jared Dillian. This is the Jared Dillian Show. We are talking about how to pick a financial advisor. If you want to call to talk about that, if you want to talk about picking a financial advisor, please call 844-305-7800. That's 844-305-7800. This is the Jared Dillian Show. You can also go to my website, which is jareddillianmoney.com. You can follow me on Twitter at DailyDirtNet. Yes, so what does a financial advisor do? He builds a portfolio and he manages a portfolio. That job is increasingly commoditized because we have robots that will do it basically for free. They do wills and estates and trusts and all this stuff. But the number one thing that they do is that they are a voice on the other end of the phone. And this, people underestimate the importance of this. And there's, people are starting to realize the importance of this. And, if somebody has your money, you need a friend. I mean, it's really, you need somebody to talk to. It's funny. I know a financial advisor in town. I know many financial advisors in town, but I know one in particular. And he's very aggressive with his clients. He puts them in lots of stocks, very aggressive stocks. And so I was in his office and I said, he was mentioning that like he was taking it. I was in his office like right after the market had gone down a little bit, 3 or 4%. And he mentioned that he was fielding all these phone calls, from people who were worried about their investments. And, basically he has to talk them off the ledge. And I said to him, like, wouldn't it be nice to like not have to do that? And if you could just put somebody in a portfolio that doesn't move around that much, and then you don't have to like get all these anxious calls from people. Because one of these days, the anxious calls are going to turn into angry calls. But by the way, this is super, super interesting. So financial advisors, and I'm going to get lit up when I say this. I'm going to get absolutely lit up. You're going to hate me. They don't care when you lose money. When do they care? They care if you leave. They care if you take your assets. If the stock market goes into a bear market and the market goes down 30% and their clients' accounts go down 30%, they literally do not care as long as you keep the account there. And by the way, that's really, if you're a financial advisor, that's really easy to explain. Somebody calls up and says, hey, my account's down 30%. Well, I mean, it's just, it's right in line with the market. The market's down. You can't control the, sometimes sometimes we have a bear market. Like, it's not my fault. But when do people get really mad? This is like fascinating psychology. They don't get mad if they lose money. They get mad if they make less money than somebody else. That's when they get mad. So if the stock market is up 20% and somebody's account is up 10% and the guy next to him is up 25% and that guy is running his mouth about how he's up 25%, and then this guy that's up 10%, he calls up the financial advisors, why am I not making 25%? Why can't I be like that guy? That's when they get fired. And any financial advisor will tell you. Now, actually, they won't tell you. Most of them won't tell you that because no financial advisor wants to really own up to the fact that they have no, like, whether you lose money, they have no economic. Now, if they're a fee-based financial advisor, if they're not based on commissions, if they're fee-based, if they have less assets under management, then yes, they're getting paid less. Once again, there's not much you can do about a bear market. Anyway, so, on the low end, a financial advisor is going to build a portfolio and manage a portfolio. So the question is, are they any good at it at all? Are they good at building a portfolio and managing a portfolio? And 95% of them are bad, and 5% of them are okay. Maybe 1% is good. But it's better than what you could do. And I'm serious about that. Well, I mean, if you're smart, you can figure it out. But what I'm saying is most people left to their own devices will build a portfolio that is dangerous. They'll build a dangerous portfolio with too much risk because they don't have an appreciation for risk. They don't have any experience with risk. A financial advisor, however incompetent, has more experience with risk than you do. So the one thing they are good at generally is not blowing people up. Not blowing people up, because if you really blow somebody up, then you will lose the account. So now, the kind of portfolio you get from an advisor kind of varies from advisor to advisor. And some advisors are conservative, and some of them like to take risk. And firms are actually picking up on this, and they're starting to make portfolios more uniform. Some of the big firms just say, we're not going to have individual brokers making investment decisions. We're going to do this at the firm level, and everybody's going to get like the standard portfolio. So, how do you pick a financial advisor? Well, it comes down to trust. If you're going to give all your money to somebody, you got to trust them. And where does the trust come from? Do you get a good feeling about somebody? Somebody give you the warm and fuzzy feeling? Do they have a good resume? Do they work for a good firm? There's a story just popped into my head. I don't know if I can tell the story, but I will say that the name brand of the firm matters. It really matters. Like, not to say there aren't scumbags at Merrill Lynch. There's scumbags everywhere, but the name brand of a firm matters. There's really a lot of trust associated with the firm. By the way, I didn't plan on talking about this, but if a financial advisor does you wrong, okay, if he does wrong by you, you do have recourse, okay? And basically these guys are regulated by something called FINRA, which stands for the Financial Institution Regulatory Authority. And FINRA used to be the NASD. You might have heard of NASDAQ. NASDAQ was the National Association of Securities Dealers Index, right? So this is FINRA, and FINRA is like 15 years old at this point. But FINRA has an arbitration process, okay? So if your financial advisor steals your money, blows you up, loses all your money, is irresponsible, suitability issues, stuff like that, you can take them to arbitration. And that is that is a real threat, right? I mean, that's kind of, if a financial advisor is regulated by FINRA, like, the threat that you could take somebody to arbitration, that's a big deal. I've been at an arbitration hearing. I was not the subject of an arbitration hearing. I was actually testifying as a witness. Let me tell you, it's not fun. It's a conference room, big, long conference table. You got the plaintiff on one side with their lawyers. You got the defendant on the other side with their lawyers. There's this discovery process. They're going back and forth. They're interviewing witnesses. It's like a trial. The only difference is it's not in a courtroom. It's in like a conference room. And people spend a lot of money on lawyers. And, FINRA can say to a broker, like, yes, you have to compensate this person $700,000 or whatever, and you can actually get your money back. And that's if you take somebody to an arbitration hearing, or even if you lodge a complaint, it ends up on their permanent record. And I guess we'll talk about that when we come back in a couple seconds. But there's something called BrokerCheck that you can look up online, and you look at their record and you can see if they have any complaints or arbitration hearings. I'm Jared Dillian. This is the Jared Dillian Show.
The Jared Dillian Show.